Nah, not really.
All right,
No.
ready? Yeah, I'm gonna do a clap to sync audio here.
My name is Caresse Dionne Spencer. I proudly say my full name because my uncle named me, and I believe he was a trailblazer in his own right as a gay man in the 80s. So yeah, I'm a designer. I consider myself just an all-around artist, creative. I'm also a writer, and I'm a lover. I'm a lover. That's pretty much me. I've known Kareem from our past life, so maybe about 10 years, it feels like. Wanted to work on a project with him actually, but he couldn't afford me. That's pretty much, but we had great ideas. It's like we knew the energy was amazing, and I was young, but I also knew kind of like, I knew what I had, you know, and I think he did too. So to be honest, it wasn't, oh, he couldn't afford me and I didn't want to work with him. It was, he actually wanted to honor what he knew I was worth. So yeah, we were in the same kind of community at the time, and now we have transitioned into a same community again. So it's a beautiful full circle situation. Well, no, it was 180. We went the other direction. For myself, I just say I grew up in a spiritually conservative environment. Wasn't very inclusive, very traditional. And I got to a point where I realized like that was actually stifling who like me and my fullness. There was elements of me that were embraced, but there was other elements that needed to change or be suppressed. And I outgrew that. Like I knew that I could not fully love myself and love other people and still remain in that environment. So for me, I would say it was a no-brainer, but it's hard to, yeah, that's why I believe so much in what this message of we're the ones we're waiting for. Because essentially that's something I realized for myself. Like I was waiting for myself to give me permission to fully show up as myself in all spaces, so. Yeah. So for me, like, if I think about like what did it feel like growing up and suppressing, people like to think of it as like, oh, that's just a part of your sexuality. As me identifying as someone who's queer, which I love identifying as queer because people are like, what does that mean? And I actually like the original word, strange, odd, weird, and it's me saying like people always thought I was weird because I was a tomboy, so maybe you're just a tomboy, but like I think at this age you're supposed to kind of stop wearing those baggy clothes or whatever. Or I want to put on a dress and it's like, oh, you're wearing a dress, what does that mean? And it's like, it means I'm myself any given day. How do I want to present myself? But growing up, that level of suppression, I mean, full disclosure, I just went to PTSD therapy last week and realized how I've learned to navigate spaces and just only present this part of myself in this space, present this part of myself in this space. And it's sad because there were people who I feel like I encouraged them to suppress parts of their self. I may have thought of it based on my religion as, well, you can change that about yourself or don't stay like that. But essentially I was telling you something's wrong with you because something's wrong with me. And so, man, that I realized what that does to your self-esteem. I'm still working on or embracing that I am beautiful just as I am in all of me, all aspects of me. But it is certainly one of those things that you can be triggered. I can certainly be triggered into believing old things about myself or assuming, you know, if someone says something like, oh man, are they judging me? And it's just like, they're not. And the beautiful thing is, even if you are, that says more about you than it does me. And that's a new place for me to be able to be at. But it's so hard. It's so hard. And I actually, in that thinking of that, I wouldn't pressure anyone to come out because that's almost the beginning of another journey, is embracing yourself, someone you've denied all these years. And now you're like, wait, where do I belong now? But I'm thankful for where society seems to be moving, where there's so many open spaces and safe spaces for people to be in. The time in my life or season that I decided to stop waiting for someone else to give me permission to be my own self. And to be honest, I know people say, and it may be cliche now, but it's like, it really wasn't a coming out. It was a going within and meeting this person again, or in some instance for the first time, because I can't remember when I allowed myself to show up as myself. And for me, it almost felt like, I believe Harriet Tubman says something about like, it was either gonna be life or death, like just in terms of her freedom. And it was like, it was life or death. Like, I severely depressed, diagnosed with severe depression. And at some point, it's like, you can just say, well, there's mental health issues in my family, and so maybe it's that. But it's like, well, I forgot to mention I'm not living as myself, and I haven't for 30, however many years. And it's like, do I want to live or do I want to die? And I mean that literally. Like I wouldn't say, it's like, I did not want to live. Like I didn't make any plans to do something, but I wanted something to somehow take me out, because I can't live like this. Like, it's almost like, I know I can't live with this weight, this guilt, this shame, but at the same time, I can't free what can I do? And it was like, you can decide that all that is good in you must be that. Whatever you are is good. Be that. Like, you know yourself. And I think for me personally, on the spiritual side, I had to wrestle with, what does that mean about God and what I learned about God? And I decided that God is what my soul says yes to. I don't know what that means for anybody else. And I don't believe that you can inflict intentional harm on people and say that that is God. But for me, I know the goodness that is within me, and I decided, for me, I must need to expand my view of life and God, because it can't mean that something's wrong with me. It can't mean that something's wrong with people who just want to show up as themselves and be treated with the love and respect that everybody deserves. So, yeah. What's funny is, I think the last time I was interviewed by someone to talk about myself and things that I believe firmly in was actually a CNN interview that I was talking about why I believe in my certain things in my faith, and why there's certain things that you can do in life that are bad. I was essentially on there as like the religious person to give the religious perspective. And I got so many kudos and followers and all this stuff. And they were like, yeah, she's standing up. And the person that was another person on the panel was someone who was, she was heterosexual. So it wasn't about sexuality in that regard, but it was more so this purity culture of waiting. You have to wait, and it looks like this and it looks like that. And I realized I didn't even listen to her story of how she hated herself because she didn't wait till she got married. Like the shame that she felt. And here I was to tell her that shame was good that you felt. That was God telling you that that was not okay. And so now I'm loving this opportunity to work with Kareem on this project, and just thinking about what I want to do with any opportunity that I have. So I mentioned earlier, my name is Caresse Dionne Spencer. I go by Caresse Dionne because that's the name that was chosen for me, Caresse Dionne. Spencer just, added on there, and we know about us and our last names, mostly, many of us. But essentially, my uncle, who was a gay man, he actually passed of AIDS. And I think even the shame around that, back in that era. And I realized, I just actually realized through talking with someone yesterday, I've been realizing it, but he was a trailblazer. Like, I think about what was it like for him to be a man and live I mean, there's still hate, obviously, that we experience now, but there was so much that people were afraid of, and it was new, and the disease, and all these types of things. And so I look at him as a trailblazer, and I finally also realized, I think, not as a weight and a responsibility that, oh, now I must as well, but I feel like you gave me this name. I want to honor you, and my brand is Dionne, and I want to honor him. I want to carry that torch. He chose to live in his freedom. I want to live in my freedom and encourage people to do that. And Dionne actually represents, I may make things that are for quote unquote women, or people that go by that gender, or men. But for me, when I think of fashion, it's not just fashion, it's how I think of life in general. And I want us to transcend gender, like beyond its expression, and it doesn't have to fit into some box. And even if it makes people uncomfortable, it's you being you, and we continue to evolve. It's like we want some evolution. We don't want racism. We don't want certain things, but then we want to say, well, let's not go that far. And so for me, I'm just like, let's push things forward. And so with Dionne, I hope to do that. And I'll be releasing my first collection in August, actually working with like reviving textiles, which is like taking older items and reviving them, storing new life into them. That's actually been my process. I've been born again for real this time for me, starting all the way over, designing my life the way I want to live it, So with this new design for We Society, my hope is, the same way I just said about reviving textiles and taking something that we've recognized and breathing new life into it. I want us, the pride flag, it means so much. And when I think of it, I don't know who's responsible for calling it pride, but the idea of having pride in who you are, not literally waving a flag. Like, to wear the flag is to wave the flag, to say, I am proud to be who I was born to be, in my fullness, in my beautifulness, in my queerness, in my lesbianness, in my whatever, however you choose to identify. I feel like it's wearing it. What I love as well is I'm not someone who may always want to have a logo on me or something like that. It doesn't matter what the brand is, but when there's a message that says this isn't about, oh, who are you wearing? What are you wearing? Who is it by? It's we has always meant this is for us. This is a symbol. It's iconic, if I'm honest. It's a safe haven. That's what I think of. When you see a flag waving, now when you see the American flag, you think something. You think, all right, what do they believe in? It used to, even that, a pride in America. And what did that actually really mean? I think we're finally really digging into that. And so I think to wear this pride flag, this rainbow flag, and definitely want to acknowledge that I know the rainbow flag has expanded. There are more colors, and there probably will be more added to truly reflect this beautiful picture of all of us as individuals. And so I just hope people want to own for themselves pride in who they are. No shame, no guilt, no condemnation. To tell yourself you are no longer waiting to show up in any space you choose to show up in as yourself. First to yourself, for yourself, and then what you can do in showing up for other people. Man, the world will be changed for sure. What I'd say to anyone waiting to show up as themselves, to show up for themselves, to fully exist as who they are, I would say to them, this is your life. It is no one else's life. It's yours to live fully. At the end of it all, to be honest, regardless of what you actually believe in, spiritually or otherwise, it's still your life. And I think you have to settle in yourself what will bring you peace ultimately. If it's just you and peace in your mind, and this idea of when you decide to say yes to yourself, I think everything around you begins to say yes to you. So I do believe in the power of positive thinking, positive speaking, positive being. And I think everything comes around you, expands around you to fit you into it. So don't shrink, do not, but I also say give yourself grace. Know that your journey is different. It is hard. So you do need to tell yourself what's coming after this. Know that there is something that you may have to experience. There's tough things to go through, but believe and trust that showing up as yourself for yourself is the greatest gift you can give to yourself. We are the ones we've been waiting for.